Welcome to the Advanced Customs Regulation Studies course. This will be your welcome video, so I will give you a brief introduction of myself as well as to the course and the different topics that we will be covering throughout the semester. So as a brief introduction of myself, my name is Jena Cauley. I will be your professor this semester. I'm the owner of First Coast Legal Group, which is a customs law firm in Jacksonville, Florida. I started the firm in 2011, so it's been really great to have my own practice in the area of law. Before I did that, I started out in the customs industry over a decade ago. I was working with a customs broker, and that was really my first exposure into the customs world. Of course, I knew the existence of the Customs and Border Protection Agency. Most people do, but I had no idea that the different careers that you could have were available. So I was really grateful to have that exposure back then. And ever since I started working with him, I have been in the industry since. So it is my hope that the courses in your curriculum with Florida Coastal have given you some of the same inspiration so that you can see different things that you can do with your career, whether it's in law or outside of law. So so as far as my customs background, I started working with the customs broker that I told you about over a decade ago. And then after graduating from law school, I worked with a boutique customs firm in Miami, Florida. And then after that, in 2011, I started my own firm. I'm also a licensed customs broker, but I don't currently practice as a customs broker because there is a conflict of interest if you are acting as a customs broker where you are obligated under certain circumstances to disclose information to the government, and then if you're acting as a customs attorney, then you have your attorney-client privileged communications. So there's a conflict there, so if you are licensed, you're not able to do both of them at the same time. So, but yeah, it's good to have that background. If you want to practice in this area of law, it's very important that you have a very deep understanding. It is a tricky, niche area, so you want to make sure that you have a good basis to do so. As far as my legal background, let's see, I have licenses in Florida, Georgia, New York, and D.C. I'm also a member of the Court of International Trade, and I've been practicing law for, 8 years now, I think. I haven't really kept count. But yeah, so that's a brief introduction into myself, and feel free to contact me at any time through this semester if you have any questions or if you want to just discuss the area of law. Obviously, I really enjoy it, so if you just want to talk about it, I'm willing to do that. Okay, so let's talk about the course itself. We will start with an expansion of what we learned in the introductory customs course. We'll start out with our country of origin determinations and country of origin marking rules. So there we will briefly review what we learned in the previous course to get us up to date so that we can expand upon that knowledge with regard to textiles and apparel goods. And then after that, we will talk about some entries. So in the previous course, we briefly talked about consumption entries, so we will expand our knowledge about exactly what those are and how they're filed. And we will also talk about warehouse entries and transportation entries as well. So while consumption entries are definitely the most popular type of entry, if you're going to see other types, it's likely going to be a transportation or warehouse entry. Then after that, we will talk about anti-dumping and countervailing duties. In the previous course, we talked about how they come about. So you would talk about the ITC and the DOC and how they would do their investigations as to whether dumping or subsidies were happening to a detrimental extent to our domestic industry. And then we would talk about how they are actually put into place. Well, in this course, we will discover how you use them and how you would analyze them when it regards your client and whether or not they are applicable to their products. Then after that, we will talk about customs bonds. So customs bonds ensure customs that importation entries are going to be accurate, complete, timely, and that the duty is going to be paid in the proper amount. And they also ensure customs that if any penalties go down, that they will also be paid as well. Then we will talk about liquidation. So liquidation is when customs looks at a customs entry and they determine that everything is accurate, complete, ready to go. And at that point they will determine whether or not the proper amount of duty has been paid. And if they are satisfied with the entry, then they will, quote, liquidate it, which means that they're essentially done with it. After that, and there's a couple new topics there from the previous course, but after that we will start talking about non-compliance with the customs regulations. So then we will start talking about certain types of penalties that customs would issue upon non-compliance. What kinds of customs forms might be submitted to the person who is non-compliant. Then we will talk about 1592 penalties. These are in 19 U.S.C. 1592. Those are when a person submits false or fraudulent information to customs with regard to an import entry, or if they omitted certain information that they had to submit to customs, it could include that as well. So we will talk about those penalties in great detail, in addition to how they could be mitigated depending upon your circumstances. We will talk about other customs penalties too, record-keeping penalties, penalties for the importation of counterfeit merchandise. We'll even talk about some penalties that you might face if you don't do the correct things on your customs forms in the airplane when you return home from your vacation. So we'll cover a lot of different ones that might be of interest for you. And then after that, we will talk about how you file a petition for relief or a prior disclosure in an effort to mitigate any penalties that you might face. And then finally, we will wrap up the course when we talk about customs brokers. If you're interested in becoming a customs broker and getting your license, then we'll talk about that as well. So I hope you enjoyed the course, and if you have any questions along the way, contact me. Okay, thank you.